With ChatGPT exploding onto the scene a couple years ago, came the rise of dozens of competitors, all vying for that infamy that is OpenAI's golden child. Today, we're going to take a look at the two biggest competitors to ChatGPT, Google's newly renamed Gemini, previously known as Bard, and Microsoft's CoPilot, which rudely integrated itself into my own Windows systems months ago. First, we'll take a look at each AI and see how it takes the same factual knowledge and see how accurate it truly is. And then we'll compare the same creative task and see how each platform tackles it. Let's start with ChatGPT. So I do have ChatGPT Plus only because I was using Dolly for something and I have it for the month. But for today, to compare ChatGPT, CoPilot, and Gemini, we're just going to use Chat 3.5, which is the free version. So I'm going to ask the same question to each chatbot and let's see how it does. So it turns out I have a deviated septum along with a couple other things where I can't sleep at night very well. So let's look up what a deviated septum really is. Let's first see how ChatGPT does. ChatGPT very quickly, within 2 seconds, wrote this whole thing out. I do like that ChatGPT will actually read it out loud now. I don't think it used to do that when it first came out. So let's hear what a deviated septum is according to ChatGPT.
A deviated septum is a condition where the thin wall, nasal septum, between your nasal passages is displaced to one side. In many people, the nasal septum is off-center, which can lead to no symptoms or only minor ones. However, in some cases, a deviated septum can block one side of your nose, making it difficult to breathe. Symptoms of a deviated septum may include nasal congestion, difficulty breathing through the nose, especially on one side, recurring sinus infections, nosebleeds, and facial pain. Treatment for a deviated septum depends on the severity of symptoms and may include medications to manage symptoms or surgery to correct the deviation.
I do like this response from ChatGPT. It does give you the definition of what a deviated septum is, and then it gives you what happens to most people. I can tell you from personal experience, nasal congestion is constant, difficulty breathing through a nose. All of this is true. I had sinus infections growing up all the time. The only thing I didn't have was facial pain, although nosebleeds happens, everything else was correct for me personally. So I'd say that this is pretty accurate to me. However, ChatGPT does not give me any of its sources. So I have no way to know if this is true or not. If you saw my last video on Grammarly, you'll know that this is what this is, where it says get citation. But again, if I click on it, it's just going to say ChatGPT because that's where this is coming from. There is no indication of where ChatGPT got any of this information, however. And even down here, it says you can make mistakes, so checking information yourself is important. This is accurate information to me personally, but I would like some sources so that I can directly look it up for myself and back it up myself. Now, let's take a look at how CoPilot answers this same question. Now, CoPilot has introduced itself to my own desktop, so if I click on search, CoPilot will come up and bring me to Microsoft Edge, which is everybody's favorite. However, we're going to stick to the web app that is in right now. I'm using Opera just to keep it consistent between the three AIs. So CoPilot does have a bunch of preset options. So it does have its original CoPilot. But as you can see over here, you can also give it designer. So it'll come up with things along the lines of Dolly, and as vacation plan, and all these preset GPTs which are tailored for a specific task. For now though, let's go back into CoPilot. What is a deviated septum? What is interesting about CoPilot is that it does have these three options down here. So I can do more creative, more balanced, or more precise. For our purposes, we're going to keep it more balanced. But since we're looking up fact-based information, if I wanted to change anything over here, I could make it more precise. In that case, I would probably go ahead and use ChatGPT 4. Let's keep this more on the balanced side for now and click search. Let's see what happens. This is much more in depth and more detailed than ChatGPT. And also, if you see down here, it gives you the sources that it used. So this is incredibly more detailed. Is it more accurate? You can do your own research, and I can click on the Mayo Clinic and I can click on Hopkins Medicine, although I would trust both of these websites for accurate information about a deviated septum. There is a Wikipedia source and MSNBC. Those might be a lot, more inaccurate. But for now, with this information, knowing that it came from actual sources instead of just ChatGPT, which it could have made up all of its information, let's take a look at what CoPilot has to say. Now here, come down here, it does have a read aloud button as well. And it also gives you a button to actually search a deviated septum up on Bing. But for now, let's hear what CoPilot has to say in its own voice.
A deviated septum occurs when the thin wall, nasal septum, between your nasal passages is displaced to one side. In many people, the nasal septum is off-center, making one nasal passage smaller. When a deviated septum is severe, it can block one side of the nose and reduce airflow, causing difficulty breathing. Exposure of a deviated septum to the drying effect of airflow through the nose may sometimes contribute to crusting or bleeding in certain individuals. Here are some common signs and symptoms associated with a deviated septum. Obstruction of nostrils. You may experience difficulty breathing through one or both nostrils due to the blockage caused by the deviated septum. This obstruction can be more noticeable during colds or allergies when nasal passages swell and narrow. Nosebleeds. The surface of the nasal septum may become dry, increasing the risk of nosebleeds. Facial pain. Some debate exists about the nasal causes of facial pain. Severe deviation of the septum can lead to surfaces within the nose touching and causing pressure, potentially contributing to facial pain. Noisy breathing during sleep. A deviated septum or swelling of nasal tissues can be one of the reasons for noisy breathing during sleep. Awareness of nasal cycle. The nose alternates between being obstructed on one side and then switches to being obstructed on the other. Being aware of this nasal cycle isn't typical and can indicate nasal obstruction. Preference for sleeping position. Some people may prefer to sleep on a particular side to optimize breathing through the nose at night if one nasal passage is narrowed. If you experience any of these symptoms, it's advisable to consult a doctor. Treatment options for a deviated septum include medications to reduce swelling and, in severe cases, surgery such as septoplasty or rhinoplasty. Remember that a deviated septum can vary in severity, and proper evaluation by a healthcare professional is essential for personalized management.
So as you can see, CoPilot is much more detailed in what it's saying. It's giving you the links and the sources that it's coming up with, and you can even click on the individual sentences to take you right to that page. So in terms of fact-based information, CoPilot's a lot more detailed and supposedly a lot more accurate and reliable at the very least because of the sources that it's giving. Now let's take a look at Gemini. Gemini is Google's own AI, which used to be named Bard, but I think they turned away from that name when it started to get a little bit unhinged. Now that Gemini is out, let's see how it deals with the same question. What is a deviated septum? Now, right off the bat, it is getting more information based on you. So the information that it gives to you might be a little bit more personalized, but let's see if that affects the accuracy. Gemini came up like that in an instant, a little bit slower than ChatGPT, but also gave me a lot more information. It was definitely faster than CoPilot though. This right away integrates the information just like CoPilot did, where it gives you factual information and you can link it right to an actual web page. So this is from healthdirect.gov.au, and not only is it giving you the information, but it's showing you a diagram to go along with it, and it links right to a website. I don't know what Health Direct is, but I'm also not from Australia, so I'm going to assume that it's a reliable source. Maybe it's only reliable if you say it with an Australian accent though. Now what Gemini does too is it does link a lot more things, like all of these you can click on. What all of these green highlighted things are actually different websites. So if you expand it, you'll see that this is Health Direct. Then you come down here and this is Health Direct, but this one is clevelandclinic.org. This one is Houston Advanced Sinus. So it's getting a lot more information than even CoPilot did. So as far as resources go, it's using a lot more websites to find relevant information. See, that's website number 4, Cleveland Clinic again. The only thing that it didn't come up with was dry mouth, where it says that it didn't find any relevant content. So I'm not quite sure where that information came from. All this other information, for the most part, came up from an actual website. None of these are Wikipedia, so it's doing an even better job than CoPilot is. I do like that right from here you can actually make this sound shorter, simpler, longer, depending on your expertise, or if you wanted to make it into a conversation piece and wanted to start your own work where it's more creative, you can click on casual or professional and go from there. Let's take a look at what Gemini has to say.
A deviated septum is a condition where the nasal septum, the wall of cartilage and bone that separates your nostrils, is off-center or crooked. This misalignment can block one nasal passage or make it narrower than the other, leading to difficulty breathing. Many people have a slightly deviated septum, and it often doesn't cause any problems. In fact, up to 80% of people have some deviation in their septum. However, a severely deviated septum can cause a number of symptoms, including difficulty breathing through one or both nostrils, especially when lying down, facial congestion or pressure, frequent sinus infections, nosebleeds, facial pain or headaches, dry mouth, postnasal drip, trouble sleeping, sleep apnea. If you think you might have a deviated septum, see your doctor or an ear, nose, and throat (ENT) specialist. They can diagnose the condition with a physical exam and possibly a nasal endoscopy, which is a thin, flexible tube with a light that is inserted into your nose. Treatment for a deviated septum depends on the severity of your symptoms. If your symptoms are mild, you may not need any treatment. Over-the-counter nasal decongestants or saline nasal sprays can help relieve congestion. If your symptoms are severe and causing problems with your breathing or sleep, surgery, septoplasty, may be an option. Septoplasty is a procedure to straighten the nasal septum. It is usually an outpatient procedure done under general anesthesia.
So again, there's a lot of the same information that CoPilot's saying, but it's giving it in a more direct way, in my opinion, than even this is. It's a lot more to the point. It doesn't describe every point. It's letting you research on your own what facial congestion is, what frequent sinus infection is, and it's giving you the links to go research them instead of CoPilot, where it tells you what each one is. It seems like Gemini's target audience is a little bit older and a little bit more knowledgeable, where it doesn't need to give you the definitions of all these. All in all, I think this is very accurate information, and even if it wasn't, or I wasn't sure, I could always click on the link and it'll take me right to where it got its information from, which is amazing. I mean, Gemini and CoPilot are very close, with a clear last being ChatGPT. Now, like I said, ChatGPT does have GPT-4, okay, but GPT-4 came only with the paid version, so I'm not going to test that today. GPT-4, I'm sure, is more accurate and more detailed than all of this is, and it might even give me actual links, but we're only testing the free versions today, and so far, ChatGPT not doing so good, gotta say. Now let's take a look at how each of these three chatbots deals with a creative problem instead. Same as before, I'm gonna give all three of these the same prompt, and I wanna see what each of it comes up with. Here, I want to look for a more creative solution that's more detailed. So if I wanted to actually do this, I want to see how much I would have to research outside of just this chatbot. So let's take a look. This is the prompt that I'm going to ask GPT, CoPilot, and Gemini. Give me an itinerary for a 2-week trip to Japan on a budget of $2,000 excluding flights. Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. That was incredibly fast. It says planning a budget-friendly trip to Japan can be exciting. Here's suggested itinerary for a 2-week trip. It says day 1 to 4 in Tokyo. Gives me accommodations, stay in budget hostels or guest houses, and it actually breaks down the price, which is kind of cool. It gives me some activities to do. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I'm going to butcher all of these except for maybe Shibuya. Try budget-friendly options like conveyor belt sushi, ramen shops, and convenience store meals. And then it gives me a budget as well. I did just watch Joey's video with Chris versus the competitive eater. So conveyor belt sushi sounds like a great idea to me. Then it says transportation, use a Pasmo card for trains and buses, and then it gives me the budget for that. And then it keeps going. It tells me day 5 to 7 in Kyoto and breaks it down the same way. Accommodations, activities, food, and transportations. Day 8 to 10 Osaka. I do like that it gives me the transportation. When I'm there, it doesn't quite say how much it would be to get from Kyoto to Osaka, but so far that seems to be the only thing that I'm gonna have to look up. And then day 11 to 14, Hiroshima and Miyajima, and then it gives me the same thing. It does say the total estimated cost, which is great. And then it gives me the total, which gives me $1,600 to $2,500, so about $500 on each side of it, which is kind of cool. And it does say that it allows for flexibility. I don't mind this breakdown, but it's not extremely detailed. It tells you the activities here, but it really just says to explore these places. It doesn't say where, except for this park and museum, right? Same thing over here. It says to visit, but doesn't really say much else. It says to stay in budget hotels, but it doesn't say what hotels are there. So this could definitely be a lot more detailed. Again, same as before, there are no sources here, so I can't actually research any of this through ChatGPT on my own. It doesn't even give me a Google search to do. I would have to copy each one of these and then paste it into Google itself and go from there. Let's take a look at what CoPilot has to say about this. Again, I'm going to keep this more balanced. I could go creative, I could go precise, but I'm just going to use its default options, just like ChatGPT and just like Gemini. Already, this is slower than ChatGPT. And actually, it's not even, oh, it's searching. That's kind of cool. So it's already telling me that it's going online and searching for the best places to go and the best way to go about this itinerary. It's already looking better. I see that it's giving me places to look. It's got 29 different sources that it looked up pretty quickly. Not as quick as ChatGPT, but ChatGPT has absolutely nothing in the way of sources. This gives me Wikipedia articles. It gives me actual websites, TripSavvy, best website there is, Reddit. That was a joke. Checksplorer, all of these different places that I can click on. And then it gives me these images, which aren't actually AI created images like they kind of look like. They're real images. So if I click on it, it's going to give me a search of this particular place. It doesn't take me to the actual place because it's Bing. Why would Bing do that? It does get me to the Bing search of that particular thing. But let's see, again, Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka. It gives me everything to do. It doesn't give me food places. It doesn't give me hotels either, but it does say I can stay in guest houses, and they're giving me links for things to do. So here it seems like I would have to look up my own places to stay and my own transportation. However, it does give me at least more activities than ChatGPT does. So both of these, considering that I asked it to give me a whole itinerary, it kind of just gave me activities to do and didn't give me any kind of plan or time frame to do any of them, except for just days. It didn't give me any ideas on actual meals. Even though it says budget meals in here, it doesn't say anything, but it does say local cuisine. But it doesn't give me any spots from Hiroshima or Miyajima Island, right? It tells me Osaka, and it gives me Osaka Castle, which is awesome. And it does say Dotonbori for street food, but it doesn't give me any specific accommodations except for capsule hotels, which would be cool. I've seen them online. They look pretty cool. But I would have to research my own places for a capsule hotel in this. So overall, better than ChatGPT, but let's see what Gemini has to say, because as of right now, not super impressed. Gemini is researching it now. Oh, I already see the capsule hotels. Everything here is saying Tokyo first. This is more like it. So Gemini is actually giving me specific things. So it doesn't say a specific hostel, but it does say transportation, like the Passmo card, just like ChatGPT did. It also gives me much more accurate pricing. And in terms of food, it's giving me street food with the pricing, takoyaki, which with the pricing and all this other stuff. It doesn't say exactly. Oh wait, never mind. It does. It says 7-Eleven or Family Mart for bento boxes. It's giving me a Wikipedia article on bento boxes, but at least it's a linked site as opposed to ChatGPT. Then it's giving me activities. So this is listed a little bit differently than CoPilot and ChatGPT, but giving me activities. It's breaking down each one. Shibuya Crossing, which I heard is cool, but overrated. Meiji Shrine. I hope I pronounced that right. Okay, all of these. This is 4 different places just in Tokyo. And then it's giving me Kyoto on days 5 to 8. Again, accommodations. And it literally says similar to Tokyo. So it knows that it's looking Tokyo up and then building on that. It's not completely separate, which is amazing. It's doing its own research and compiling it before it even shows me the information. Food is very specific. This word, kaiseki, meals, which it gives me the definition, which is kind of cool because I wouldn't have known that. Katsudon okonomiyaki, which is this, which I think I've had once before, and it was kind of interesting. It had like floating octopus skin things that were dancing on top, which was kind of cool. Again, Kyoto's down here, and then it gives me activities, bamboo grove, heritage site, and temple. Okay, and then it's giving me some more day 9 to 14. It's giving me the day trips. So Hakuyane, Kamakura, Nara. Ooh, Shikamaru's on here. We got I think that's the deer park. So this is definitely a lot more accurate than CoPilot and ChatGPT. It's giving me ideas where to go. It's giving me the prices about of what it'll be. It even says this is free entry. It's giving me accommodations on where to stay. It's not telling me exactly where to stay, but it's giving a little bit more information. It's also telling me the expected budget. Transportation, it is giving me. It says unlimited rides and buses and subways, and it even gives me the price and tells me that I can even rent a bicycle, which is kind of cool. And it's giving me a lot more places too than ChatGPT did. So overall, definitely a lot more accurate than GPT, a lot more detailed than CoPilot. So overall, Gemini is the clear winner for me, with CoPilot coming in second, and ChatGPT is also there. Gemini seems to be on top, followed by CoPilot, followed by ChatGPT, which was the first one to do it. But in the past year or so, Gemini and CoPilot have come out, and ChatGPT is looking way behind at their taillights, getting left behind over there. Like I said, maybe with the paid versions of all three of these, ChatGPT might come on top. But in terms of the free versions, Gemini number 1, CoPilot number 2, ChatGPT number 3. I hope you enjoyed this analysis. If you'd like me to take an even more in-depth look at any of these, let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't seen my review of Grammarly, click over here. And if you want more video editors, check out my video on Visla over in this corner. And I'll see you there.